This is Kim Scheid. For this week's Caldecott Award, I read Finding Winnie, the true story of the world's most famous bear. It opens with a mom telling her little boy a story, and the story begins in Winnipeg, Canada, with a veterinarian by the name of Harry Colburn. He is called away to war to care for horses in the war. So on his train ride, he stops to stretch his legs, and he comes across this trapper with a small bear on a leash. This is one of my favorite parts, is Cole interjecting throughout the book his thoughts and questions. But what I appreciated most was Mom's response when Cole asks what trappers do, and she says it's what they don't do. They don't raise bears, love them. So Harry's heart makes up his mind, and he takes this bear on the train, and when the colonel tries to scold him for bringing such a dangerous animal on board, Winnie stands up to salute him, and right then and there his heart melts also. So Winnie becomes the brigade's mascot, and she travels across the ocean with them. She travels to other countries until they're called to fight. And once again, Harry's heart makes up his mind, and he knows that he can't take her to such a dangerous situation. So he takes her to the London Zoo, and when he drops her off, he says how much he loves her and that she'll always be his bear. And when Cole thinks that that's the end of the story, Mom says that's the end of their story. A new one begins when we carry on. So sometime later, a new story begins with a little boy who's had a teddy bear since birth, but he can't quite know what to name her until his dad takes him to the London Zoo, and he meets Winnie, and he and Winnie become friends, and the zookeepers actually let this little boy into the enclosure with Winnie to play. So then he knows that he has to name his bear Winnie the Pooh, and this little boy's name is Christopher Robin. So after visiting Winnie at the zoo, he goes home with his Winnie, and they go on some adventures in the woods out behind his home, and his dad writes these stories down, and they were turned into the stories that we all know and love today. So long story short, I told you all of that because Cole is the great-great-grandson of Harry Colburn. And I told you all of that also because in the back of the book, one of my favorite also is a scrapbook of Harry Colburn, his journals, pictures of Harry and Winnie and the brigade. And I feel like there were multiple lessons in this story, but my takeaway was the kindness of Harry's heart led him to save this bear and give her a full, loving life, and the bond that was created between him and not just Winnie, but other animals as well. I think there's an importance of family and handing down stories from generation to generation, and also a history lesson regarding how horses were used in the war and during that time. And no matter what happens in our life, we should constantly move forward because maybe one story ends, but maybe another one always begins. And as much as I think it would be fun to do a family tree with my students, I think what I would rather do is pull up a map, an interactive map on the smartboard, and have my students make a timeline of where Winnie travels by train, by boat, and by car, and let them look at pictures of all these places, place it on a timeline, discuss all of these places, all these places that she visits, that she goes on her journey. Thank you.